everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Voices of Vicenza. Cayman and Randy here today, and we have two special guests here to talk about all things bicycles. We have Dan, our safety officer, and then Hap, who is known as the community pedal pusher, which, Hap, what does that even mean for those who don't know?
What's funny, it's a great title, and I love it because I love bikes and I love connecting people to bicycles.
So you are the community subject matter expert, is what you're telling me.
That's what Dan's called.
That is.
Alrighty. And Randy, I see you're wearing a helmet.
Safety.
What?
I'm all about safety.
Safety.
You don't notice I always wear it in the office. It's a big, bright blue stripe down the middle. It barely fits on my head. And listen, you hear that? That's my helmet. That's not my head.
Is this something that's mandatory here in Italy? Dan,
just in this office.
As the safety officer, what's up with that?
So, yeah, there have been some changes to the Italian road code, which requires the use of helmets. Believe it or not, within Europe, they'd seen a 30% increase in TBI incidents.
Oh, wow.
Within the past few years, tied a lot to the electric bikes, the electric scooters, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, they did mandate the use of the helmets, especially for our U.S. population. It is a requirement. So that is Italian law, but also Army regulation? Yes, yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very interesting. I did not know that. So you also have to wear it when you're not just doing the regular cycle bikes, but electric bikes as well.
Absolutely, especially with the electric bikes. Some of them have a lot of power. And in fact, my wife, I shouldn't be telling you this, but she actually wiped out on an electric rental bike.
Okay.
Just on one of the ride shares downtown. She was okay. Mm-hmm. Got up, dusted herself off. It was kind of funny. We all had a good laugh, but fortunately she had a helmet on and everything was fine.
Yeah, I have actually a very similar story. We were biking in Germany, like up a mountain, basically gravel road, and it was on electric bicycle. Obviously, I'm wearing a helmet, but I don't do very well with going downhill on the gravel because I'm not confident that I can brake and not skid. Well, I made it down the slope, and I went to brake, and there was a cow in front of me. And anyway,
wow,
it was awesome. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, that's just my little nitpick.
You survived it? Didn't nothing?
I survived it.
The cow was okay?
Oh yeah, that was the most important. I mean, of course, I had to get off my bicycle, which was now on the ground there, and make sure that the cow was okay. But I just walked away with a couple scrapes. So I mean, I think as we were talking about earlier before we got on the podcast, like you can expect there to be a few little bumps here, especially if you're not familiar with riding bicycle or maybe you're trying some new terrain. And I know, Hap, you were saying that, I mean, for yourself, I see you're wearing these interesting shoes.
Yeah, so I pedaled over here this morning, and I'm wearing clip-in shoes, which is something that most advanced cyclists would do. So you'd be wearing clips on your shoes, which increases your power and your connection to the bicycle and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so all of us have a funny story when you learn to ride with clips for the first time or two. You can't get in or out of them, and so you spend a lot of time fiddling around, and then you always fall over, usually in front of traffic, and usually
at a stop.
At a stop. Where you're trying to start again and go. And so there's always that with clips. But the key thing about clips is you don't have to wear them. They're really, and for commuting or for beginning bikes, for sure, you don't need to wear clips. But yeah, these little clips that are on your pedals are the first time you get into those, you're going to have a few falls. So they actually we encourage folks to try them on grass first, ride around on the grass a little bit, get in and out of them. Mm-hmm. So when you tip over, not if, when you tip over, you're going to tip over in the grass and you get used to them. But then after a little while, they're just like
second nature,
like riding a bike. I would say, but,
I always wondered, when they're clipped, are they clipped into the pedal, and so you're stuck on the bike? Is that how it works, or how do you get your foot off the pedal?
Well, I was going to ask that. You come up to a stop. Do you unclip your shoe? How do you maintain your balance?
Yeah, so you are clipped into the bike, Randy, and you're connected. But so the reason is because for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps you onto the bike when the bike is moving around, or on a mountain bike, for example, where you might be getting some air or whatever.
If a foot comes off, then you pedal and you may crash, trying to get it back on again or something.
And the high-end cyclists would do it for power transmission and being most connected. You turn your foot slightly, just a little bit to the left or right, and you can also adjust the tension on your clips. So you have them really, really loose or really tight, depending on your riding style.
I never knew this.
So you were saying that, you guys both have, like small crashes from this, basically. Is that how you would describe it, or how would you say it?
Maybe more of a dust up.
Little whoopsie daisies.
Yeah.
So a crash that I had, one I had when I was barely, not even a teenager yet. Some kids sabotaged our little local riding park in the forest that somebody had made up, and they dug a hole on the other side of the little jump. And so when you came down on the jump, you end up in a hole, and then you go end over end. Yeah, so that was fun. Not really, but I didn't get like totally damaged or anything.
And you still ride bicycle?
I still ride a bike, yeah.
That's the most important part.
And then my wife, she grew up somewhere where they didn't have bicycles, actually. Not a country that encouraged bike riding, in her younger years. And so she did not have any experience riding a bike. And then so I bought her a beach cruiser thinking this is like the easiest. It's just one little brake and it's big seat, comfortable, and moves kind of slow. And then we're riding together one day experimenting here in Italy, actually in Monte Galdella, and a car was coming and she got nervous and she went over, just said, "Oh, I'm going to get closer over here off the side of the road, in the ditch,
Oh.
And I laughed so much.
Randy.
And she's never let me live that down yet.
She's never going to ride bicycle with you ever again.
And she kind of hasn't, unfortunately, but she did not get hurt. So it was just more psychological than physical, But yeah, I was looking at how long it would take me to get to work. It would only add like 10 minutes to my commute if I rode a bicycle to work.
Yeah, cycling is quite efficient.
Yeah, sure. And I'll feel good, unless it's raining, I guess.
And Dan, I want to ask you, so you have a unicycle. Have you ever ridden your unicycle to work?
Not yet. Maybe tomorrow. If everybody's lucky, I'll ride it in tomorrow.
You could ride it in the office, ride it around, but in the building here.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'll bring it tomorrow, and you guys can have a go on it as well.
So, how did you get into this unicycling? Because that is so niche.
It was a Father's Day gift.
Okay.
We actually got it at the thrift store just around the corner here.
Oh wow!
Really?
It was there, and so. Why not?
Is it still considered a gift? Do you still think of it as a gift, or is it punishment? Or
no, it's absolutely a gift. Yeah, it brings joy to
Randy,
me every time I see it.
Randy, he is on the record.
I know. That's why I'm asking. Yeah, right? Which one's your favorite kid, by the way? No, just kidding.
It's Alexis, the one. Yeah.
The one child.
Dan brings his unicycle every year to our bike festivals, and it is the most popular thing to ride. So we always at the Bike Fest, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but the everybody wants to ride the unicycle.
That's true,
and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to try to get on it. And the thing is, nobody can ride it, so it's fun to watch them. It's a tricky thing. Dan has a couple other bikes too, and most of them have more than 2 seats.
Yeah,
really?
Right. Yeah. So I do have the tandem, which I use. It's funny that you mentioned.
I just saw you riding it yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually use that. My wife and I use that to get our daughter to and from school and things like that. So we commute on the tandem. So on the back, it's set up for her, so she doesn't have to steer or brake, and she usually goes no hands and just kind of is in a daze.
How old is she?
She's 10 years old now.
And okay, so she's able to handle that concept.
That's it.
There's a certain age maybe you don't want them on it yet, right?
Sure, yeah. But yeah, we can actually cut through town, and I've beaten people to work after seeing them drop off at the same school. Yeah. And that's not by me, flying through town. That's just a normal pace.
Cycling.
Yeah.
And Hap, you just mentioned this bike week. What is this bike week? I'm just now hearing of it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked, because so this bike week coming up beginning at the end of this month, and 2 weeks in May is something that we've done on an all volunteer basis with great support from Outdoor Rec and MWR and the community. Really, it's a free event that we're now doing both at Del Din and Ederle. And also at Camp Darby. This is the 5th year we've run our bicycle bike weeks, and the bike weeks have a lot of activity and action going on. So at the end of this month, beginning on the 30th of April into the 2nd of May, and then the following week at Del Din, and then a week after midweek in Ederle is when we do these bike weeks.
So is bike week where you get like thousands of loud bicyclists riding through town, revving their their pedals, making noise like in Daytona Beach.
Well, that's going to be the Giro here coming up soon.
Do people bring their own bicycles, or if I don't have a bicycle, can I still come to the event and learn a little bit about what a bike is?
It's a great question. So yes. You don't have to have a bike. If you do have a bike, we've got a group of mechanics who provide free bicycle maintenance for you. The goal of Bike Weeks is to connect people to bicycles. That's a really simple goal. We do it to educate, to inform the bicycle community about the benefits, the ease, safety, connecting people to bikes is the goal. So whatever kind of bicycling they're interested in. So if you're a soldier and you're interested in going to do something epic up in the mountains, and maybe you want to do some fast down hills, we can connect you to that. Outdoor Rec has trips frequently that do those kinds of things.
Right.
If you're a commuter, we can hook you up with a guide who can lead you from your house to your work or to school or wherever you're going to go and show you how to commute safely. We talk about that. If you're interested in racing, Dan mentioned the Giro, which is one of the national grand tours that comes. This year it's coming to Vicenza.
Oh my gosh!
I want to talk about that too.
Okay, yeah.
But Bike Week connects people to bikes. We provide free information. We're out there all week. It's all volunteer. It's really, really neat. It's a homegrown, all volunteer event. It's been super, super successful. Every year we repair at least 200 bicycles for free.
Wow.
With the help of our great sponsors like Red Cross, Wounded Warrior Project, MWR, of course, and VFW. VFW also contributes to helping us do that.
A soldier here in this building, he told me that you guys helped him out. I think it was last year's, and I think I saw you guys repairing some bikes before, and I know some of the old bikes around post, when they get abandoned, basically, left behind, sometimes they get repurposed, and the soldiers are able to use them again, not like new, but in good enough condition to ride and enjoy and, get around and whatever other way they want to use them, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the, we're still working on the name, but the clunkers.
Yeah.
Clunkers. I like
Cash
it.
for clunkers, but something else, right?
Yeah. So we have some volunteers that tag all the different bicycles around that have been left. And after a given period, the MPs collect them, and then we refurb them and put them back into the community for the soldiers to use for free. So we'll give that bike that we've refurbed to them.
And that's a great way to get around town, get around posts. You don't need a vehicle. What a neat program. That's amazing.
There's a soldier in our office. He rides a skateboard. I see now. So he's getting ready to PCS. He's doesn't have his primary vehicle anymore, so he's riding a skateboard. And bicycle's a good good intro to before your car arrives or something. Exactly. Maybe it could work for for just practical purposes, not just the fun part.
Absolutely. Anytime we PCS, we move with our bikes, and that's our first way to get around is via bicycle.
So when you look for houses, do you pick one that's like a certain, like it has bike features that you're like, oh, this can help me get to work easier because it's got a good path nearby or good place to park them or whatever? You consider that when you find a place to live? Absolutely. So we'll look at a map, and in the case for the VMC, we'll find out, okay, my wife's going to be here at Delta and I'm here at Ederle. Where's the best location for that for us with the bike? What my ride to work each day, I see like for about 80% of it, there's a nice bike path, like separated from the traffic, like it's got its own little kind of barrier. Yeah. So it's near La Rotunda, the villa, and so I always envy those people that they don't have all the cars I'm dealing with. They're just riding their, enjoying their view as they go by.
And that's kind of a great segue into discussing cycle culture here within Italy. And Hap, you said you wanted to touch on this grand tour, so why don't we start with that? It's coming to Vicenza.
Yeah, so Vicenza this year is going to host a finish for the Giro de Tour, one of the stages coming up on the 23rd of May. The tour is going to finish right here downtown. So one of the things that our bicycle group can do, and we would invite all the listeners and your audience to join us, is we're going to see the tour both at the finish, and we're also going to view the tour along the way somewhere in one of the steep climbs when you can see the riders up close because they're going slow. The Giro is one of the 5 grand tours, so maybe you've heard of the Giro d'Italia. You've probably heard of the Tour de France. It's one of those big races. All the racers are in their hundreds of of cyclists and all the big teams. It'll be a big thing and a lot of fun. So Outdoor Rec is also going to sponsor a trip for us on the 25th. They're going to do a sponsored ride up to see the tour up in Asiago, which is up here on the plateau, just above the area. And it's one of the coolest things about being part of the cycle culture here. Even if you're not a roadie and into road racing, it's a really, really cool way to get inspired to see these fantastic athletes in a world-class cycling event.
And talk to me a little bit about like accessibility and biking here within Veneto, because we were discussing, earlier, biking is just the norm, right? You're driving along the Autobahn or Autostrada and you see these people traveling with their bicycles, and their whole point of the trip, for example, is to go find the place that they're needing to go, and then they're going to spend the whole week cycling. And that's so contrary to what, we're used to coming from the States.
Absolutely. In fact, I know Italy has put some emphasis on slow tourism, just like the slow food, where they're encouraging people to do, just as you said, travel to a location and then spend more time slowly going around, seeing it, experiencing it. The great part about doing this on a bike is you have the distance you can cover, but also at a speed to where you can really enjoy what's happening, what's going on. There's loads of bike paths, bike routes, mechanical support, everything that you could want all in this area. And it's, as we've hit on, there's all sorts of different types of riders, from those doing commuter bikes to the speed demons to downhill. So it covers it all.
So is there a thing? So when I drive my car, I see lots of cyclists, and on Sundays, I think that's I'll say the worst day, it's the day when you see the most of them, and they're not riding, in line, behind each other. They're quite often taking up a whole lane, and I've encountered them before coming around a curve, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like 100 bikes. Any tips on safety what should I be thinking on the weekends when I'm driving, and cyclists?
Well, it's just like any time we drive, we need to be driving defensively and thinking, what's going to be around this, potentially what's going to be around this corner. There could be a cow on the other side, or there could, right?
Speaking from experience, there was definitely a cow.
Or a group of cyclists, or, kids playing in the street, things like that. Yeah. So we just need to, it's, we get caught up with what's going around, but just slow down and just kind of take it in and enjoy the journey. As it were.
Randy, it also, you highlight something really interesting, and it's the culture of cycling, both in Europe and specifically here in Italy and the Veneto. As Americans, we grow up in a car culture. Cars are the means of transportation, and bicycles are generally a recreation tool. Something that we don't see many grown-ups on bicycles. Here in Europe, bicycles are part of the transportation. It's expected. They're normal. They're respected. They're integrated into the transportation network. You mentioned the trails, buses that are accessible to bring your bikes on, trains. So traveling with your bike, using your bike as a viable means of transportation is something very interesting. On the weekends, you will notice a lot of groups out there pedaling along, and that's those are the kinds of things we can connect you to and tell you more about a bicycle week. But as Americans, it's useful to realize that you're entering into a new kind of culture. So it's not a car culture. It's not a motorist culture here. And bicycles are a real thing for everybody. So
yes.
from very young people to very old people, you'll see all kinds of people, all generations, and all different kinds of bicycles, both on the road and out there in the broad.
And that's kind of the bottom line is Europe is so bicycle friendly. You don't really have anything to be afraid about, obviously, as long as you're being a responsible bicyclist. And yeah, kind of like I said before, you can travel somewhere and you can go and cycle. And that's kind of what my husband and I like to do, because we haven't quite made the e-bike investment yet, if I could say, because they are quite a pretty penny, especially if you're getting a good one. But we'll just, travel to, 3-4 hours away. Sometimes we go to Austria, sometimes we're going to Germany, and you can plop yourself in a town and you can go rent bicycles, and they're everywhere.
Speaking of renting bikes, Outdoor Rec has just about every kind of bike you could rent.
Yes.
I did not notice a unicycle there. I don't know if they had one of those.
I have to talk to somebody about that.
I know, right?
We'll have to file a request for an e-bike.
But they have e-bikes there. They have there's a new type of bike that I didn't know about called gravel. Well, to me, it's new. I don't know. I'm kind of old. So gravel bikes. You guys heard of? You guys, bikers, cyclists. Do you know this?
And brand new e-gravel bikes at
e-gravel bikes.
Too.
Wow,
what
just
is an
coming
e-gravel
online.
Bike?
So it's powered by electricity. So it relieves the rider of a lot of the work.
Is this different than a mountain bike?
Different than a mountain bike. Cross between a mountain bike and a road bike is a gravel bike.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the tires are looking a little different, like the little
tires
thinner.
are bigger. The geometry is different. It's designed for going off-road faster, but not necessarily like on a downhill mountain bike.
Oh, but that sounds like what I need because I don't like taking it down.
Yeah. E-bikes are really a neat thing because they really can increase your mobility, especially if you're older, if you're just not as strong, or if you're younger, or if you're just going to be in a hilly area, or you're going to carry a heavy load, or maybe you're going to push your kids to work on a big bike, or carry your groceries home. An e-bike can be a really viable solution. The prices are also coming down every day too. They're not as expensive as they used to be, and you see them everywhere. They're pretty ubiquitous.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I'm making do with just like a regular plain old Jane bike because I go get my groceries, so I'll put them in the bags on the side.
Oh, it's a new kind of grocery getter.
Yeah.
That's the old school word for station wagon. So you got your grocery getter.
It's a bicycle, and it's a quick, 10-minute bike there, 10-minute bike that back. And like you said, it's part of the
We get asked a lot, what bike should we buy? And what I usually tell people is ride the bike that you have. Get that bike out of the garage. That old mountain bike, that old city bike, whatever it is. Start on that bike first and see, because for your daily commute, that bike is probably 100% sufficient. It's probably the great way to go. And then if you're interested, there's a lot of used bikes out there that are available before you go buy a new bike, so you can avoid that sticker shock. And as you mentioned, Randy, Outdoor Rec has a fantastic selection. They really have one of every bike. They've even got kids' bikes. So you can go there and get a bicycle for the weekend and try it out. You can try one of these.
Yeah, before you put a big piece of money down, you try it out for a few days or whatever. I've been encouraging them to make it, like a introductory offer for people to help them get started with things. And they even told me a lot of newcomers, when they don't have their cars yet, this is like a great way to get around. Yes. And there's at least 100 bikes in there, all different styles and brand new ones that, ones that are improving, e-bikes, everything. It is like Bike Central there.
During our bike festivals in May, we will have those bikes on display and available for test, and Outdoor Rec will offer a discount on those bikes during bike weeks as well.
Cool.
Okay. Well, so I'm curious because we're kind of coming to the end of the podcast here, but what is a trail or an area that you would recommend that you'd say this is a must go? If you are going to start bicycling, I think you should go here, and why?
Oh, that is quite a question.
No pressure.
A lot of things are running through my mind. The first thing, quick, easy, and really accessible is just at the foot of Monteberico, at the Scaletta, and the route goes south. Paul goes quite a ways, at least 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers.
That's the one I drive by. I think that it comes out onto the road, crosses a road at some point, and that's the one I see. So when they're behind there looking at La Rotunda, they're like behind it, basically.
That's it. Right? Yeah.
Oh, okay,
and so, it follows the Colli Berici, and so you've got a lovely view, and it's easy, it's relaxing, and that's one
safe.
Unless you're going to go in the mountains, I would suggest this one.
Yeah,
quick and easy to get to.
There's also several trails. There's a really good one that just branches off of that. It goes along the river. It'd be a great gravel or mountain bike ride over to Padova. So you can follow the river. It's a really pretty tour and wind up in downtown Padova. And then you can bring the train back. There's a lot of really easy, fun, short tours.
I see people with their bikes on the trains. Like there's like parking spaces on the train for it. They take a couple of seats out and have a little mount for your bike.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like you don't have to be afraid. And I don't know how much you have to plan it ahead of time, but it looked easy.
You do need to get a ticket for your bike if you're going to do that, but it is easy. It's really easy and quick. Yeah.
And Randy, what about you? No pressure. I know you don't ride.
I have a bike because my wife is
you have a helmet.
Scared now. You
do have a helmet.
No, I had a bike stolen, unfortunately. So mark your bikes. Get your
always lock them up.
Your serial number. Mine was locked, and they still it was locked to itself where they couldn't ride it away. They had to carry it away, but whatever.
Do you have a favorite place to ride when you were riding riding your bicycle?
Beach.
The beach.
Yeah, you could ride on the beach here. I bet. Somebody still probably shipped a beach cruiser over or mountain
in certain
bike.
areas. Just make sure you give it a good wash afterwards. Otherwise, you're going to collect a lot of rust.
Yeah.
But that was my favorite place, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, for me, I haven't actually ridden bicycle in Italy like that. We usually go, like I said, up to Austria. My dad lives in Germany, so we'll go onto the western side and just rent some e-bikes, like I said, and ride through the mountains, which I really like because, you're doing 40, 50 miles a day. I'm feeling great. And you're getting to cover a lot of ground and see all the scenery and kind of, immerse yourself that way. But, well, thank you, gentlemen, so much. We covered a lot of great material. We learned a little bit about bike safety, how to prevent some crashes with those special bicycle shoes. Also, again, do not forget, Bike Week is coming up very soon.
We'll have a link in the description.
Yeah, there'll be a link in the description.
For everything we talked about, we'll throw some links to some trails out there, Outdoor Rec link, any other links you think would be good, guys, that we can share, like types of bikes, introduction to unicycle.
ODR.
Route planning links as well.
Maybe Strava.
Strava would be a good one. Komoot. There's loads of different mapping routes.
Cool.
Alrighty. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for tuning into Voices of Vicenza.
Voices.
Until next time. Ciao.
Thanks. Ciao.